Hey, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. It's going to be your SITREP. It's 8/20/2024. Come to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. As we get into the deets of what's going on around there, we're going to take a look at what's up currently in the skies from a military perspective, and then we're going to look at our watch list as always, as well as talk about this all this UFO calamity happening over the Palmdale area. I will tell you, I wouldn't be too concerned about all of the chatter. I'm pretty sure we know what's going on out there. So, all right. Well, that said, let's do this. Let's jump over here real fast to Skyglass, as always. And we're going to be, we've already stripped out all of the trainer activity. Just to give you a general bottoms-up view, 258 mil aircraft showing on the screen. We go over to Europe, and we'll give you just kind of a bottoms-up number from that perspective as well. Let me back it up some because it does tie into the Middle East. 173, so keep in mind this way ahead of us in terms of the time. The only thing that caught my eye over here on this side of the house right out of the gate was this aircraft, which appears to be a Chinese Y-20 that looks a lot like our C-17. No coincidence there. But looks like they're delivering or landing here inside of Russia. So we will just, add that to our quiver. We're going to build on this aircraft type, and then we'll see if we can track where all the Chinese are headed, as well as the Ruskies. Okay. All right, back over here to CONUS, and I'm just strip a couple things down. We'll look at the H-60 Blackhawk flight activity. It's 41 of those currently up right now. Northeast is chock full. And then, of course, down here in this area, the Panhandle, a lot of training stuff, and then down into the Caribbean. So we'll take away the H-60 Blackhawks. The other piece I did want to point out, the air refuelers, KC-135s, you can see are quite busy. And then we're going to add to it the 767 Pegasus, which is another air refueling variant. Again, this is a big indicator of fighter activity. And you can see just kind of coast to coast, this one out over the Pacific Southwest side of the house, always out here. There's danger boxes. There's a lot of activity happening. That's because there are a lot of ships that come right past our border here down into, not only the Panama Canal, but they also go up into this area, which has got to make our government kind of nervous. And again, as always, you can see pretty active from an air refueler perspective. Okay, now let me go down just a little further, see if there's anything else catch my eye. We got H-47s. Those are going to be your Chinooks or your banana copters. I want to add that one to our bucket here as well. A little busy. Yeah, you kind of expect nothing really over the top. There's one in Europe also. Now, the interesting thing is this is going to be your H-64. It's Apache gunship you can see out here off the East Coast. But look at this. You get over here to the UK, and it is super chock busy, full of Apaches, gunships doing their training stuff. And then you've got one out here in Germany also. So, all right, let me back that out. Let's get into our watch list just so you can see what is kind of happening out there. First and foremost, I do want to show you the rings. This is their visibility circles. Okay, this is what they're looking at down below on ground, more than likely. You can see some low altitude drone stuff there along the border, and then you can see the high altitude, balloon activity. The high altitude ones, I mean, they've got everything covered up right to just right on the cusp of where the DNC is happening up there in Chicago right now. And then you can see, just give you just a general visibility aspect over Europe. There's the German balloons, right? You can see they got all of Europe locked up just with that one balloon. And there are 4 or 5 of those, actually. They're just not showing right now. And then low altitude stuff going on over Turkey and then, of course, over the Persian Gulf. Now, the ones low altitude over Turkey, those are drones. So it for some reason, it just kept the rings there. So we'll back away from that and just kind of give you a general idea. A little closer now, you can see the drones. That is an E-3 Sentry that's over the Persian Gulf. That's sniffing for nukes. All right, and looking at ships, and then you can see all of the activity over Turkey, those little rings and circles. Lasai Aviation, third-party ISR aircraft. So that's intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance. And then there's more LaSalle Aviation, a lot of third-party stuff out there. Little P8, Navy P8 to the north of England up there near Scotland. And then you can see, we get over here to the United States, so back up just a little bit. You can see the balloons, quite evident, all the balloons in the sky. But then you get some of the purples. You can see we have, just kind of venture off to the north, a lot of intel gathering over the United States, coast to coast. Pretty much no stone unturned, because if they're not capturing it there, they've got it with other mechanisms out there too. All right, then that's Trump. Looks like he is on ground, about to either take off or land, not sure. But that's his aircraft there in Mar-a-Lago, getting ready to, it looks like, leave. So, all right, that's your watch list. Let's go over here to the intel, surveillance, and reconnaissance stuff. Very strange flight patterns from these aircraft. Now, these are going to be all kinds of different things, from military assets to civilian assets. But these are not just transitions. These are actually going out and capturing data. They're flying over, doing some recon. You can see where they stop and get, a little fuel as they head out, because most of these don't have air refueling capabilities. In fact, I don't think any of them do. And we get over here to Europe. But kind of strange patterns we're seeing over the United States as always. You can see the low hanging fruit there to the north. And then you can see the high altitude ones. Those are going to be like the Q4s. That's low altitude. And then the high altitude. Look at the layers that they are going in different altitudes. And they're looking straight up at Crimea, that whole region, very closely, as they always do. No real big change there. And then down near Malta, you can see some water-looking recon going on. And then over Israel, as always. All right. Let's talk drones. Q4, Q9s, even the low altitude ones for Turkey. You can see we've talked about those. I showed you the little rings a minute ago. And then you can see this one looking at ship traffic over the Mediterranean. A little more high altitude stuff happening there coming out of Malta. That's where those Q4, Q9s are located. And of course, you can see it just sweeping all the way up to the northern side of Europe, looking very close at Belarus. That's because Belarus has got some activity, a lot of troop movement headed to the northern side of Ukraine. So we'll talk about that here in a minute too. You can see the low altitude ones over the Baltic Sea up towards the northern end of Denmark. And then really strange, not too much to speak of over the United States. Very, very unusual. We typically see a lot of drone activity for 5 days worth of time. Got nothing. All right, let's talk about the spooks, the clowns, and yes, the agency boys. It's going to be your gray birds. This is Uber for your agency boys. You can see them in Europe. That should be a little concerning for all of us headed down into what looked to be Romania. And then you can see over the United States, this one headed over to what looks to be Colorado, right there just to the north of Chicago with the DNC. Why would you have agency boys at the DNC? Yeah, I wonder. And then always kind of spread out across the United States. Remember, they're based out of Cartersville, at least that company is. So that's what you're seeing. All right, let's talk Spec Ops community. This can be your Uber for your Spec Ops bubbas. And you can see them headed down into South America. Headed to what looks to be Colombia, down into Panama. And then you can see them also in Colorado, off to the East Coast, to D.C., etc. Again, Spec Ops community. Now, where you really want to look is over in Europe to see if we got anything. And I'm not seeing any of their flights over there. So, and nothing in Japan either. All right. All right. R135s. Remember, this is going to be SIG Intel. Just notice the flight headed up along Norway, out over, probably gathering stuff from ships in the ocean. And then you can see over the United States, the same locations they are always in and out of. All right. So R135s. All right. And then let's go to AWACS. And AWACS is going to be, remember, this is looking for nukes or, doing air traffic control, man in the middle, ship traffic, all kinds of stuff. But up in Alaska, there's a lot going on up there. It's a little concerning that they have been flying so much in that area, because if they're looking for nukes, that is a little concerning. And then some strange transitions. You can see them headed back over the drink into Cyprus. Right, got a little bit of work there in Turkey, but then we go a little further north and you can see them frequenting out of Europe and doing some little, look like marshalling patterns there out, man, in the middle circles towards the North Sea. Okay, so that kind of gives you a bottoms up look at what is going on relative to the military traffic. We do have, let's just talk C-17s, because that's going to really paint a picture for you, as well as the air refuelers. I think it's important to note the amount and the volume going over to Europe. Not seeing it going into Asia as much as I see it going into Europe, which tells you a lot, okay? So first and foremost, let's look at C-17 traffic. Remember, this is going to be your Globetrotter, right? It's a Globemaster. This thing is long haul. You can see a lot of activity down in Australia. You can see some stuff happening over here in kind of the Japan side of the house towards Okinawa, a lot of broken traces. And then just note the thick spaghetti noodles coming in, those flight traces coming into Ramstein, into the UK, and into the Middle East. That means we're moving a lot of assets over there, probably a lot of desert equipment, you know, Humvees and tanks and all the other stuff that we put in. Missile systems. And then you can see it going in and out of the Persian Gulf side of the house. And then we get back over to the United States, just the big takeaway, notice everything headed into Hawaii, the broken traces down over the southern side of California, big transitions across the United States. Again, this is a long-haul aircraft. Air refueling capabilities, and you can see down into Florida. But if you back up and just kind of look at the big picture, just look at where it's all going, right? Middle East and into Europe. So we add to that. Let's talk air refuelers, because we see the same stuff. Notice the volume going into Hawaii, the broken traces coming out of Hawaii, the stuff headed north towards Alaska, but then just notice that just seems to be a total blanket over the United States. Again, big indicator of fighters down to our southern border. That means they're worried. They don't put things and fly fighters down there if they're not concerned about something happening on the southern side of Texas and Arizona, New Mexico. Now look at the transitions. That's taking fighters across. Right? We are moving squadron after squadron over to the Middle East and into Europe. And just notice you see them going into the Turkey, the broken traces down in the Middle East, and then hot and heavy into Qatar. That's a lot of flights. That's a lot of fighter activity. All right. Okay. So that gives you kind of a bottoms up of the air refuelers and what is really moving. Now let's look at the Omni. Notice where you don't see anything here from the refueling perspective. That's Japan. 5 days, no refuelers. Very, very strange. All right. Now this is Omni. What you're going to notice is that the Omni reflects very closely to the C-17 activity. That's because they move troops. They move illegals. The stuff going down south right there, that's going to be probably all illegal. Picking up folks, saving them the walk, flying them directly straight into the United States, and then up to Alaska. That's probably military related. And then notice, see the same traces, same stuff we saw with the C-17, Southern Cal up to Washington, Seattle area. All right, and then you can see little sprinkles there into Europe. But that's important because they are moving troops. So if you combine what we saw with the C-17s, you look at all of our base operations, that is where all of these flights are headed. All right. Not too much going on. Japan, Okinawa is a little bit busy, but it's not really. Everything seems to be heating up from the Middle East perspective. Okay. Just noticed Africa, right? We're going to be working on trying to get more flight data and information out of here. I had a whole bunch started, and I lost my watch list and had to recreate most of it. So, yeah. Anyway, but we'll get it. All right, let's do this. Let's jump over here to the news cycle, and this is the Palmdale piece, right? What is going on? If you've lived out in that general area, I've done a tremendous amount of work there over my career, and we'll tell you in and out of the Northrop Grumman facilities, the Lockheed Skunk Works, over to the desert side of the house. And this is Plant 42. If you're not familiar with that, that's where you get your B-21s and your unmanned drone type activity. Most of it is going to be super classified stuff. Now, this is where it's interesting because Warzone put this out. This just says the Palmdale UFO scare leads to revelations about mystery drone incursions over the secretive plant. What this article is really talking about isn't so much what people are seeing in the sky and confusing it with the UFO activity, but this is really people trying to get out there with drones and look at what's happening out in this very secretive area. Now, here's the thing. This ought to be jammed up from a geofence perspective. Why it's not, I have no idea. If it wasn't, it surely will be soon. But I think also what's happening is a lot of confusion when people see, drone activity. I will tell you, there's things going on. There are a lot of things going on out there at this location, China Lake, over at Area 51, et cetera, that they put it out there for a reason. They don't want people, just general populace, seeing what's going on. The problem you run into with Palmdale is there are a lot of people live out there now. And, so they're seeing things at night that obviously they're curious about. And there's a lot of confusion thinking, oh, well, this is going to be a UFO. And the reality is these are government programs. They've been around for a long time. The things that they do out there are for a reason. It's because it is advanced technology and capability, and they don't want everybody and their brothers seeing it. So they do a lot of this stuff at night. And but that is most of the confusion. People seeing things that they can't really get their head around in some cases. And it's our, skunk works, all right, et cetera. All right. This is the spot, actually, let me kind of zoom in and give you a general idea. This is the Palmdale Regional Airport, but this is where a lot of this happens. And you back it up a little, just give you an idea of where. Notice it's over the mountains, and then you get down here into Los Angeles, et cetera. So, yeah, this is where actually all of this out here. All right. Okay, moving on from that, let's get into what's going on here. It looks like they're Chicago. You got the DNC going on. I did find it comical that the party that is pushing that steals elections and do all the other fun things that they like to do, they are the very ones that are boarding up all of the facilities in the streets and putting in chain and fencing and all kinds of stuff because they're worried about people rioting. This is their party. Why would they riot at their own parties? Well, yeah, maybe their own party's starting to figure them out a bit. Okay. So nonetheless, this is flashbang. It's really doing a whole lot of nothing. And the one thing I will say is, which I found very odd, first and foremost, if you take a look, D.C., the size of the ring over Washington, D.C. now is astronomically large. All right. We get over to this end. It looks like flashbang's headed out to California. This is an active ring. I don't see it on his schedule. I assume it's him, given the size of that TFR. It typically is flashbang because the smaller ones are usually for, like this over here, would be for Bob Marley and crew. Now, the interesting piece about this was they actually put those on the map like a week and a half out. So long before he ever came out. Very unusual. Typically, they don't give people that much leeway as to where these folks are going, and it pops up just a couple of days before. So the fact that they had these out here for a while is a little bit strange. And then, of course, you got up here in Chicago. That's where Bob Marley and the Wailers are. All right. Back away from that. Let's get over to this piece. This is just an insult to us, we the people, okay? This whole impeachable conduct, no kidding. They've been asleep at the wheel for 4 years. This guy's term is up. In fact, his life is almost up. He probably has a shelf life of less than 2 years. And they're coming out now with this impeachable conduct. Give me a break. We see you for what you are. So stop the shenanigans. This should have been done before he even got into office. All right. So anyway, let's just keep going. Disgust me, honestly. The people that we have supposedly representing us are absolutely treasonous. They should, every one of them, be marched out. Every single one of them, and start over. It's just incredible what we allow as a society. But Hey, it could be a lot worse, and let's talk about that. Here we are with, you're talking over here in the UK, and I feel for you folks over here that are watching. A move to ease prison overcrowding as more rioters are jailed. So they're taking people. Now, if you're not familiar with the riots that happened over there in the UK, it's because some illegals actually murdered some small girls, young children. Okay, and people have a right to be up at arms over the policies and everything that's in play. And so, now what they're doing is they're taking folks that are already in the prison population because it's overcrowded. They're letting them go, and they're bringing in the rioters. And oh, by the way, guess who else they're going to be going after? Folks like me who are basically highlighting the things that are going on in the UK. They don't want you talking. So they've gone from socialism almost straight into communism. So eyes on this. The things that we're hearing out of the UK are absolutely concerning, all right? Okay, look at this. U.S. Navy installs the world's first carrier-based drone control center. Sounds pretty fancy and pretty cool. Reality is all it is an unmanned air refueler. It throws some fuel on this bad dude. There's your little probe that allows them to refuel this. As you can see, you've got a F-18 getting a little bit of go juice. So anyway, this new drone is it's a U.S. Navy MQ-25 Stingray, and it looks like they have set up shop now, which is just part of the process, right? Actually putting them into service. Okay, let's talk NOTAMs for a minute. This is going to be tied in with the TFRs. Again, your box down here, the reason you have this box down at the southern side of California and into Baja is because the ship traffic coming through. These are danger boxes, not going anywhere. These continue to expand and then contract. We've got a lot of stuff going on there. And nothing really over the United States that catches my eye that, in terms of a concern. We get over here, you can see, I do know we've got some Navy P-8 activity that's kind of flurrying around here. This is where the P-8 that came out for the Nord Stream, by the way, out of Iceland. And let's see, getting a little closer. I'm having an issue here with it wanting to grab as I drill down. It tends to go away. So nonetheless, everything looks to be pretty much status quo over on this side of the drink. There was one thing, though, I did want to point out, and let's see if it actually pulls it in. It does not. You do have a lot of some LiDAR survey TFRs over Australia right now. They're just not showing. I don't know why, but we'll move on from that. The other piece, too, is this is from about 3 days ago. I just want to show you the geofencing that's happening here in this general area. Just notice how it seems to just be right around Russia, the outskirts of Russia. Probably because of the drone activity and the threat of the drones. So they jam them up to keep them from doing what they have been doing, which is pretty bad. But also notice down here, when you get to the north of Libya, out over the Mediterranean side, that you can see some jamming happening there as well to the south of Malta. Over the United States, not too much going on. We got just a little bit out here in this general area. And then this, I do find interesting that you've got some jamming happening on this side mainly just because it's south of the border. It's down in Tijuana, but notice it is high, very, very high. Okay, let's talk Guantanamo Bay for just a minute, just because we check in on it from time to time. There's not a lot of new stuff going on down there. Just to show normal flight here. This is not normal. You may notice that this is one of your grays, okay, gray birds, little Gulfstream 3 coming out of Washington Dulles, headed down to the spa. This will be your agency boys more than likely. This one is going to be TCN-17. This is just your regular contractor Uber back and forth from Lauderdale into Guantanamo Bay. And that one I'm not familiar. I don't know what Rev Aviation is, but we'll have to figure that out later. All right. And it looks like, oh, interesting. Went into Apalaka. All right. So that is, maybe that's Opalaka. Yeah, I think I mispronounce it every single time I do it. All right. So went from DC, right? Agency boys down to Guantanamo Bay, and then from Guantanamo Bay over here to Opelika. All right, so I'm not going to go there because typically when I start to highlight the activity going from here into this location, my death threats seem to go up. All right, I peak agency response for some reason. So I'm not going to talk about it. You guys have to just read between the lines. All right. Okay, now this is going to be Dover. There wasn't too much going on out of Biggs Army Airfield other than a flight down to Guantanamo Bay, which would have been a troop rotation. Notice you got a priority air transport coming in. That's coming from Fort Dix. All right, and then if you go down a little further, just see you've got Coletta 747, some Atlas Air 747, Amerijet. We see those blended in with the Omni stuff because that's a conglomerate there of different cargo companies. And this one's headed in and out, picking up stuff, bringing it back to Israel because we're not delivering anything to Israel, making them come and get it. Makes you sick. And then you can see another one there that's also doing the same. All right, a little bit further down, just notice when they leave where they're all headed to Middle East and Europe. All right, several to RZE, several to Ramstein. And then let's do this. We'll keep on headed over to the Camber flights. Big uptick. Remember, this is going to be troop movements. And the piece to this is just that you can see where they're rolling in and out of. You've got Crete, Ramstein, Spain. So this is Hawaii, Doha, right? And then over here as well, Rotas. So a lot of troop movement happening and a lot of transportation going on into the Middle East and Europe. All right, and then this can be your Brits. Just notice they're coming out of the U.S., headed back over to the U.K. You got a couple just getting off ground or landing, one or the other. All right, that's their transports. And then let's look at Ramstein. There's an Atlas Air coming inbound. You've got a Camber flight from Dover, 767-300. This one coming out of Turkey. And this one, the Baltimore, Washington. The fact that they're 767-300s, that's troops, okay? So we got a lot of military on the move. And it looks like this one's headed back to Turkey. And then this one's destination unknown. All right, German Air Force, as always, looks to be headed towards maybe Vancouver, but very busy in Europe. You could see also in and out of the Middle East. Again, we're keeping close eyes on the Germans. This is, most of that's going to be similar to your Camber flights, etc. All right, moving troops more than likely. All right. Okay, RZE Poland. Again, this is Ukraine. This is Poland. This is your forward operating base, not the closest one to Ukraine. Well, I take that back. Probably is. Of course, you've got them all the way down into like Constanta, etc., which is pretty close to Crimea. But let's just go through the list and see if I have anything. That's Air Cairo. That's coming out of Egypt. There's one Camber flight. And then you can see another Camber flight coming in from Doha. Now, you know what's going on in Doha right now. That is, you've got the Israelis, the U.S., and, of course, Hamas all together trying to negotiate some type of peace. It looks like Israel actually accepted what the U.S. was trying to have them do, but then it looks like Hamas said, not doing it. So this is going to continue on. We'll continue to watch and see if this does indeed lead to an Iranian strike on Israel, which would be probably a pretty big mistake on their part. But again, yeah, I see a little Coletta 747 in there. I'm looking for the wide bodies, really, that are rolling in. But this has, the board's rotated. It was a slight uptick. It looks to have slowed down a little bit. But let's do this. If you haven't been watching the news, Belarus is once again putting more troops and aircraft to its southern border right there with Ukraine, just to the north of Kiev and off to the west side. I think what we're seeing right now, the reason they're doing this is because there's an anticipation as we get into basically a 90-day window of the election here in the U.S. If something happens and Trump does not get into office, I believe you're going to see almost an immediate response from Russia and Belarus going into Ukraine. I think that will be the point that things go hot. If Trump gets in, You'll probably see these folks stand down. I don't think that they will do anything. Trump's going to pull all of our funding out. He's going to shut it down. Then they could actually go in and just take over Ukraine, at which point we will do nothing. So, but anyway, I see this as just some geo-positioning of assets along the borders because everybody is kind of jockeying on that chessboard for what's coming, I think. All right. Russians baffled after Putin puts space troops in with his infantry. It's a crazy story to think that they would do that, although I don't know what they're really doing in space, quite honestly. U.S. has Space Force as well. I don't know. I'm not going to try to speculate what they're doing. I'm just going to report on what they have going on here. And the fact that he's moved these folks down to fight on ground level seems a little bit strange, but there must be something clearly to this. Right? But nonetheless, a lot of stuff happening over there right now. So just pay close attention to that. And, they've had their hands in a lot of things. They seem to be into this nuclear deterrent side of the house as well. So maybe that's the inside read to all of that is the nuclear option. All right. Okay, look at this. You've got a glide bomb wipes out Ukrainian brigade leaders. And that is from the MOD. And you can just see the hit here with, it's a lot of heat coming in. Looks like a night strike targeted this Sumy region, which is essential to Kiev's logistics and its ongoing incursion into Russia. So it looks like that was a preventative strike to take out the threat. But nonetheless, there's a lot of that going on, a lot of oil refineries being hit by drones, just a lot of drone activity. So when you go back over here and you look at the geofencing happening around Russia and all of the drone activity, it starts to make a little more sense that all of these folks are kind of putting up all this geo interference, right? This GPS interference stuff. So, all right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for our SITREP today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back as we're just going to keep our ear to the ground when it comes to what's happening with the Iranians and the Israeli piece. And if something happens, we will certainly report on it. Stay frosty because I think we are in that compressed window, as I continue to say, that if there was ever a target-rich environment here within the United States and abroad for something to make the wheels come off, now would be the time, okay? So, all right, that's it. You guys be safe out there. God bless. Monkey out. Artisan handcrafted soaps. Get yours in the Monkey Werx shop today.